God bless you. It's another wonderful experience for me that I can sit with you, to share with you, to talk to you. It's a pity that we can't really converse in that the interaction couldn't be there for you to share with me. But hopefully, hopefully in time to come, sometime in the future, if if the Lord tarries and if the opportunity is there for me to have that opportunity to, I will take it, and I hope that others would also take that opportunity. But it's wonderful anyway. The sun is shining, the atmosphere, the environment here in West Yorkshire, where my wife and I we minister here. It's glorious, and I'm sure those who are from West Yorkshire, whether you're around the world or here in the UK, would agree that this is God's country, where it will remain God's country until we leave here. But God is good, and I'm grateful that the Lord has given me health and strength. He has given me an extended time and life for me that I could minister in this way. The the book of Ecclesiastes. We are now uh, going into chapter 11 of this wonderful book. I've never really gone through it the way that I have approached it in these past couple of weeks, or probably let me say a month, or within the month. But surely, what I have been reading for myself, and as I meditated on the word, thought about the word, I'm not trying at all to see anyone else other than myself in applying the word to. I don't have anybody in mind that I want the word to address any one individual. If you understand what I'm saying, I read, I meditate on the word, and I view me in the sense that the word must first have an effect and have the desired effect it should have upon me. And then once I see it work in my life, then I believe that I would be some sort of a blessing to others. I think where individuals, and probably where I'm coming from in the sense of my journey in life, sometimes we as preachers, we get a good passage, we look at a good book, we look at a good chapter, good passage within that chapter, and we gear it and we prepare it so that it will be powerful in somebody's life. And yes, I think there's a measure of that somewhere in everything that we do. But then we don't really, as preachers, we don't really look at it from the perspective of ourselves first. We always seem to prepare it for others, to prepare it for others. But personally, I don't think so. I think that whatever I look at, whatever I read within the scriptures, I believe that I should be able to see the reflection of my life, because Christ is whom we are wanting to be like. Christ is our example. And so to be like Jesus, there's a song that says, to be like Jesus, all I ask is to be like him. And so to be like him, we need to look into the mirror of the word. And Paul speaks about that. He speaks about looking into the word, into the mirror of the word, and and addressing ourselves so that the reflection that then is seen, we can see Christ in us, not not self, not to be self-centered. And I think in the last session, or the session before that, because the last session we read the entire 10 verses of chapter 11, because it was an introductory into that. But in the session before that, chapter 10, we looked at individuals who are self-centered, look in and idle. And in the self-centered section, we looked at people who indulge in excess, as well as putting our faith in wealth and in the positions of life that is around us. And that is not what we should really put our strength and put our faith in, because these things will fail. It doesn't matter how much money one has. Doesn't matter how much a position, high position, one may attain to. These things will fail. They have failed many. They have failed, and that's not what I want for myself, and that's not what I want for you as the individual. We must look to Christ. Now, this chapter, as we read in the session before this one, or 10 verses, it addresses wise counsel for true happiness. Wise counsel for true happiness. So if you read all 10 verses, that is what Solomon, the wise man, the man of knowledge, the man of understanding, great understanding, great knowledge, great wisdom. I don't think there's ever been an individual like Solomon. Now, I'm not saying that there are no wise individuals, and I'm not saying again that there's no one that is as knowledgeable or was as knowledgeable or um, or knowledgeable or had great understanding like Solomon. Not saying that at all. There's got to be somebody that has more knowledge than me, far more great understanding than myself. So there are individuals in our world today, dotted all over the world, even in the very city that we may live or work or pass through it. There are people who have a degree of understanding, a degree of knowledge, and a degree of wisdom. There are individuals. There's something you never come to me about. Never. Because the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding is not with me. It's not there. I seek the Lord, and I ask the Lord that I will live a knowledgeable life, a life of understanding, and a life of wisdom. That I see in chapter, in chapter there's a chapter here that is it chapter 10. Let me see. Yes, dead, just as dead flies make perfume or stick, so little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. And not going over that particular verse or chapter again, you can read that for yourself or listen to what I had said about that if you can go back far enough. Because just just as a side note here, that Facebook did a very wrong thing for us, I believe. Not only to me, they didn't only targeted me, 8 billion or whatever billion people that use Facebook. But they've they only keep a month of live um, instances that people do. Anything beyond that, they completely wipe clean. Because you could have, probably about 2 years back, you could have looked at my Facebook, gone into my videos, and see entire chapters, and way back, probably go back another three 3 years, they kept it. But for some reason, they have deleted a lot of my a lot of my sessions, and I do keep them anyway. I always download them, and I've got them stored in other places. If you look into my YouTube, you'll be able to find going back a few years anyway. However, looking at verse 1 of chapter 10, it talks about individuals who may have been wise, who may have lived a life of understanding and knowledge. However, because of certain decisions that one made, either foolishly or unknowingly, sometimes these whatever has happened can tarnish. It can tarnish the reputation. It can tarnish the 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 character of the individual that's standing. And we have to be so careful. We need to be careful. And it's only God, really. It is only God, by and through His mercies and His grace, that there are some things about a lot of people that God does not allow to seep out, because great would be the stink of such individuals. And I place myself in there. But why? Why do I put myself there? It's because I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. And there have been I've made mistakes, not foolishly, or whether it be foolishly or not, knowingly or not, mistakes have been made. And sometimes people can make a big thing out of nothing, and sometimes could even. But then it is for God. It is for God really to protect. Once we see and we place ourselves in His hand, it is only by the mercy of God why He protects, and how we really are not else of them what we. So, in this particular session, we're going to be looking at uh, live or invest wisely. That's what we'll be looking at in this particular session. Invest wisely. That again, that is all under the broad heading of wise counsel um, uh, brings true happiness. It brings true happiness. Wise counsel, and we need to be men and women being enabled by God and by His Spirit to give wise counsel to those who are around us. Not only by how we speak or what we say to them, but how we live, our action. Whatever we do, it brings counsel. It shows wise counsel. Let's read first 6 verses of, of chapter 11, and then we slowly go into that. There are 5 points that Solomon wants to highlight in all of these 6 verses. I'll just mention them to you now so that as we read, you'll be able to identify these six points. One, but into well, when you invest something, you expect a return, isn't it? You invest money, you can invest your time, you can invest your talent, your gift, whatever that is. Not only money, but there are other things that you can invest in. You can invest into an individual. You can make an investment into an individual. It doesn't have to be money again, even though that may be a little bit of it. But there's so many things that individuals can invest into. Yeah. So, um, just want to mention the 5 areas that Solomon here, um, I believe, expects when you invest wisely. One is that you always expect a return. Two is that one must diversify your your investments. Yes, you cannot know the risks or disasters that lie ahead, so you diversify, spread it out. You spread out your investment. Three, you observe closely the events. So when you invest into something, you just don't leave it there and don't see what's going on in and around whatever you may have invested in. You watch closer, you observe what's going on in what you may have invested into. Four, you guard against procrastination, waiting for an ideal time. Yes, you guard against procrastination. And five, you are diligent in your labor and be sure to diversify. Work hard at every task, and you do not know which task, because you just don't know which task will succeed. But you work at it. You work at it. And sometimes you have to cut your losses, isn't it? Sometimes you may have to um, invest up to a point and then pull back. Because if you stay there any longer, you could lose everything. So you've got to be very much aware. You've got to observe. You've got to observe events, what's going on, whether it's in an individual's life, whether it is a ministry. It doesn't matter what it may be, whatever that investment may be or may consist, you have to look carefully. You have to observe. You have to guard yourself, guard, and you have to be diligent in it. Don't leave it up to anybody and everybody. Okay? All right. So let's read verse 1 to 6 of chapter 11. Again, invest wisely. But read from the King James Version. Cast thy bread upon the waters, for thou shalt find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 and also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall come upon the earth. If the clouds be full of rain, they empty themselves upon the earth, and if the tree fall towards the south or toward the north, in the place where the tree falleth, there it shall be. He that observeth the wind shall not sow, and he that regardeth the clouds shall not reap. As thou knowest not what is the way of the Spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even so thou knowest not the works of God, who maketh all. Verse 6. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thy hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Wise words here from Solomon, the wisest of all men, man of understanding, a man of knowledge. I don't know if we really consider Solomon um, at all as we should. We talk very much about David, we talk very much about Paul, about Peter, we talk very much about the 12 disciples. But Solomon, and we all know Solomon, we all can say that he was a very wise man, and he was a man of understanding on of God's people, Israel, before the kingdom was divided. We all know that, but do we really take the time? And the time that I have given to talk about Solomon in and through Ecclesiastes is still not enough. I don't think I've spent really as much of time as one should in order to really get out what we should hear. But what I'm doing, I'm hoping it will just push you, just cause you to go back. And I'm not asking you to start in chapter 11. I want you to go back to the start of Ecclesiastes and consider each portion, the passages that he leaves. Because not only does it address and did it address to his day and time only, but fast forward to the year 2026, I believe that he is very, very much apt and suitable for the time and the day in which we live today. We need to invest wisely. We must expect a return. You don't invest on the stock market, in the shares, and just leave it there and say, well, I and forget about it. No, any man that invests with this £100, £1,000, £100,000, whatever it is, you look at it, you watch it careful, and you see and you inquire what it is that you need to do, whether you need to pull back, sell, or you can buy more. You just don't leave it there, but you expect a return. No man puts money on the stock exchange, expects to lose it, and it remains happy with it. Solomon was heavily involved in the shipping industry at this time, doing a significant amount of sea trade with the king of Tyre, which was Hiram. This serves this fact serves as the background to much of what Solomon is advising in the present language. Therefore, the following verse should be read carefully. Now, this is the verse that that this theologian in the book that I'm reading is um, is telling us to look at. In First Kings chapter 10 and verse 22, there's an account there that shares with us of what Solomon the king was heavily involved in. Let's read that. First Kings 10, verse 22. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So it wasn't only the gold and the silver that was brought, but animals also. So it shows that the king, and in particular, at this point, if you read the entire chapter here, you will see that this account in First Kings chapter 10 is speaking of the king of Israel, which is Solomon. Yes. He he amassed wealth, gold, silver. He had all sorts of animals coming into his kingdom, all sorts of products coming into the coast of Israel. So I think there's some things that we also need to remember here is that Solomon had ships, not just one. He had a fleet of ships. Solomon kept his ships at sea, so they were always out there bringing in wealth. They were not just on the harbor. They were not just at the harbor, but they were bringing in wealth into the kingdom. They were always out there. He was always having trade. He was always investing, if you believe. And yes, there's nothing wrong for a Christian to invest, even though some may say that it is gambling, and for many Christians around the world and Christian organizations are against gambling, and there are aspects of gambling that is wrong, I believe. And probably I would say that because I was born and brought up and taught that. So when you talk about horses and going to the slot machines and pouring your money into it, you're not gaining anything. Sometimes people win vast sums of money on the machine, but they sit there hoping to get more and they lose everything. I mean, what's the sense of all of that? Again, that is foolish, isn't it? Would you say that? That's not right. Maybe that's not righteousness. So we need to be very careful of what we do. But but Solomon here is he is not only trading on the sea with other countries and other nations as we see here, but he's investing, he's making his investments, and the returns are coming in. And that I believe, if you're of that mind, if you are of that ilk, then God be praised, because you're not only able to help yourself and help your family, but you can also help others. And I think that's why we're here, to help others, to help others. So 3 years elapsed before Solomon received returns on received return on his investment, and Solomon's investment reaped enormous dividends and wealth that enhanced his enjoyment of life. Remember, in some passages before, Solomon has said that we should enjoy life. Solomon himself says that all it is to eat, drink, and enjoy life, because we're all going to a place where all of that is going to stop. And whatever you leave, the investments, the dividends, the wealth that you have, you're going to leave it for someone that may just spend it all anyway. You just don't know those who inherit your wealth, how they're going to treat it. So don't worry about that. Live life now, enjoy life now, and live it for the Lord. Because judgment, again, just like all the other books that we have read up until so far, says judgment is coming. We're all having to give an account of the life that we live. For so Solomon gives an illustration of this principle, a very practical example. A farmer sowing seed. Farmer sowing seed. The farmer must sow seed into the ground before it will grow. There is risk involved. The year could bring drought, no rain, or the opposite extreme, a torrential rain could wash away the seed. Some seed will almost certainly be devoured by birds, but the seed will never multiply as long as it is in the barn. The farmer must take it from storage, invest it in the uncertain earth before he will have more grain. If he does not, he will have bread for a time, but eventually the supply will be exhausted. In order to have a continuous supply, he must risk what he already possesses. Can't get bread if the seed that is there to make the bread is in the barn. You have to sow it. But in sowing it in the earth, you don't know if the waters is going to come and wash it away, or there may be drought. That's uncertain. But you need to invest it in the earth anyway. Watch it. Be observant. A lot could be said in here. Yes. Um, but there are three areas here that I think I need to point out to you. There's an element of trust, there's an element of commitment, and there's an element of the look forward. Any worthwhile investment or venture requires patience. It takes time for, in the example that Solomon gave here, for a ship to sail. And in his day, it was 3 years that Solomon's ship went out and came back in. And seeds do not grow overnight. Yes. Seeds do not grow overnight. Investments do not bring their dividends at times overnight. So there is an element of trust, there's an element of commitment, and there's also an element of the forward look. And that is what we need to do for ourselves. The second point In this passage here of invest wisely is to diversify your investments. Verse 2 of chapter 11 says, divide your merchandise into 7 or 8 shares, since you don't know what disasters may come on the earth. The teacher's advice here is sound and wise. Whatever your venture is, diversify your assets. Do not send all of your grain out to sea. Using the same example here that Solomon had or used in regards to him and his ships going out to sea. Do not send all your grain out on one ship. Do not sow all your seed in one field in one season. Financial planners would say diversify your assets. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So it's important. A lot more could be said on that. Number three of this 5 pointed um, effort here within investing wisely. Number three, closely observe the events. Verse 3 of the same chapter. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. The teacher here, the wise man Solomon, advises those who are with him, and is still advising us to closely observe the events and conditions in order to make the best possible investment at the best possible time. Even in nature, there are signs when rain is coming. If we see dark clouds rolling in, we know that rain will follow. Likewise, we should always observe the events and conditions that surround us so we will know where and when to invest our time and our resources. The threatening clouds also issue a warning when a storm is approaching. We should be alert to changes in circumstances or conditions that are signifying a negative return and adjust accordingly. Let's look at our lives. Let's look at what's going on around us. Look at what you're investing into. Not only talking about the stock markets now, but everything that you do, anything that you're doing, whether it's in the church, whether it's in your ministry, whether it's in your workplace, look and see what it is you're spending your time in doing. Is it going to bring dividends to you? Are we really wise in our lives? Are we living wisely in order to have true happiness? Are we concentrating ourselves and looking on the Lord? Are we really leaning on Him when we should? Are our hands placed in His hand? Or what are we holding to? Sometimes we have one hand in Jesus and the other hand somewhere else. And then sometimes, instead of leaning on the Lord more, holding on to Him, we loosen our grip. It's not that we haven't taken our hands out of His, but we're loosening our grip on Him and tightening our grip on something else. Now, should that be? Are we really living wisely in order to have true happiness? Are we? And I think again, Solomon could only say these things after a few years in his life. Probably again, it could be in the middle of his reign, or it could be very much down to his twilight years. I don't know. I can't say. It doesn't really give it any indication of when Solomon was penning these words or saying these things to who he was saying this or leaving them. But obviously, we've got them. Now we must be wise in what we do. Storm clouds give us time to prepare. Look, observe. We need to observe, be very observant. And sometimes the reason why we are caught off guard is because we haven't really been looking closely at what's happening around us. We're not observant at all. We give the impression as we are that we are, but we're not. Who are we fooling? Are we fooling those who are with us, or are we fooling ourselves? Let's let's live wisely. The fourth one is guard against procrastination, waiting for an ideal time. Let's read verses 4 and 5 of this great passage. He who keeps watching the wind will never sow. He who keeps looking at the clouds will never reap. Verse 5. Just as you don't know the way of the wind or how the bones grow in a pregnant woman's womb, so you don't know the work of God, the maker of everything. Now, even though we have doctors and consultants in regards to the example that Solomon used, and he was a wise man, very knowledgeable. I don't know what kind of technology he had then. I don't know if he had the technology of what the hospitals use or what certain specialists use in order to monitor the babe that is being formed in the womb of the mother. We don't know what's happening there. But obviously, I don't know even if the doctors know how the babe is being formed. Well, they can get probably very technical. The sperm and the ovary or the egg, they come together. We know that much. Yes, and there's a chemical reaction that takes place when these eggs, the sperm and the egg, comes together, and there's a lot of division that goes on within uh, the within the process. All right. But when the baby is being formed, they will take pictures. They will look ultrasounds and such, and they will see the bones being formed, the hands being formed, the head being formed. But I've never really, I don't know if it's ever happened. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I've never spoken to one in that depth. But Solomon says something that was quite, uh, for me, very, very unique. He says here, how bones in the pregnant woman move. Just as you don't know the way of the seed or how bones grow in a pregnant woman's womb. Have you ever thought about that? Have you really thought deeply about what Solomon has said there? Very, it really blew my mind when I read that. Inexperienced farmers might delay planting until weather conditions are absolutely perfect. Their crops are often unproductive because they waited too late. So it is with people who want to invest or to grasp an opportunity but are afraid to take the first step. They wait too long for the perfect time and circumstances before they do anything, and the opportunity um, passes. I think that is so important. Waiting for the perfect time, we keep will keep a person from investing or planting, from grasping the opportunity or undertaking the venture. We must realize that the future is unpredictable and some things cannot be known. We must act wisely by observing everything we can and gathering all the information we can. Our risks should be as calculated as possible, but we must act also in faith. It is so um, important. Now, some interpret the wind uh, as in verse 5 says, as thou knowest not what is the way of the spirit or how the bones do grow. Now, some interpret ruach wind as referring to the human spirit, but there is no reason to take Solomon's use of the word as anything but a literal reference to the wind. The second illustration deals with the great wonder of God's creative power, the development of an infant in a mother's womb. We live in a time of far greater knowledge than the people in Solomon's day. Thanks to medical advances and ultrasound technology, we can actually peer into the womb and see the unborn child in its various stage of development. But we can only observe, not fully explain. We can explain what is occurring, but we cannot completely explain how it miraculously occurs. And that was what I'm really alluding to or really saying here. The more we know, the more we recognize what we do not know. The truth is, with many of God's words, we cannot predict, we cannot understand, we cannot fully know what God will do and when He will do it. The ways of God defy human explanation. This fact stirs Solomon, the teacher, the preacher here, the king, to issue the straightforward challenge. Sow your seed. We may not understand how a Dead Sea can go into the ground and then spring forth into new life, multiplying many seeds for itself many times. But we are to sow anyway. We are to be proactive and aggressive, not sit back and wait until the conditions are ideal, because the workings of God are a mystery. Do what God has placed in your hands. Do what God has placed in your heart. Do what God has given you as a gift or as a talent. You just don't know how God will work to multiply, to bring blessing your way and to those who are around you. You just don't know. We don't know. Don't procrastinate. Don't wait until you feel it's the most ideal time. No, the time is now. You do what you need to do. Invest wisely, but leave things to God. Act by faith. Look to Him. Trust Him. Wise counsel, my friends. Solomon here is giving wise counsel. Look to the Lord as you sow that which God has given you. And it's not only just money. With the results may be money, the results may be great wealth, but that may not only be the only result of God's blessing. There may be other things also that may come your way. But we need to just trust the Lord and act in faith. The last point I want to leave with you, it's been a little while I've been with you for this day, but I trust anyway that you're being encouraged by this. Is be diligent in your labor and be sure to diversify. Verse 6 says to us, in the morning sow your seed, don't slack off until evening, for you don't know which sowing will succeed, this or that, or if both will do well. Keep working at it. Keep going. Others may say you're foolish or it's not going to work or this, that, or the other, but you keep going, keep sowing. Do what is you think is necessary in order for it to bring forth. Put your trust in God. Have faith in God. Have faith. Solomon challenges us to sow our seed. And the teacher, the preacher here, Solomon, the king of Israel, commends those who diversify their investments and work diligently. We must know and we must work hard at every task in the morning and evening. We are to get up and go to work and work diligently until the end of the day. We must work in spite of the less than ideal conditions. And we must remember that life never presents a perfect set of circumstances. A slack or idle hand is a symbol of slothfulness. Work, even when others are telling you to put down your tools, even when others are telling you it's not, it's pointless doing what you're doing. It's pointless. You're not going to get anywhere. Who's listening to you? I've been told that many times, who's listening to me? And sometimes I have to wonder really who is listening. But I still go. I'm not getting any rewards of this. I don't know what it may bring. I don't know what door it may open. I'm not looking for anything great or magnificent, but I do what I do. Whatever you are doing in the kingdom of God, others may not be doing it, or others may be doing it, and others may be reaping all the benefits out there that is not coming your way. But the thing about it is that if you do it with the right heart and mind, because God has placed it in you, upon you, and you do it effortlessly, then I believe that God will supply your need. There will be blessings. There are blessings coming, but we need to be diligent with what we do. Do it. This may be our morning. This is our morning. This is your morning. Do work. Plant your seed. Plant your seed, because in the evening or tomorrow, if tomorrow comes for many of us, the blessings may come. It may just be there for you. You will reap. God will give you the desires of whatever it is that you have placed in the earth. Listen, I'm going to stop right there. But meditate on these first 6 verses of chapter 11 of Ecclesiastes. The wise man, the man of knowledge, the man of wisdom, a man of understanding. He is telling you something. He is showing you something. I want to make it as personal to you as possible. Whatever it is that you do, and you may not be doing what something like what I'm doing, or you could be. I don't know. But whatever it is that you're doing, do it. If it is unto the Lord, do it. Do it, because God will. Again, he says here, uh, don't slack off, for you don't know which sowing will succeed, this or that, or if both will do well. You don't know the work of God. Verse 5. Go back up to the last part of verse 5 of this chapter. It says, you don't know the work of God, the maker of everything. That for me has brought me encouragement. That has encouraged me. And since I've read it, it has encouraged me greatly. There's no other book that would say it, and I said it in this way. Put it that way. There are other chapters, yes, that has encouraged me greatly, very greatly. And I'm sure there are chapters and there are verses that has encouraged you greatly, yes, and at the time needed. But this also has shown to me that we don't know the work of God. He has placed it in us. He has placed something in you. Do it, because you don't know what God is going to do. By faith, you do what you do. By faith, I do what I do. You may be a pastor just like me, but our ministry and our ministry may be much completely different but it is still a blessing to the congregation that we minister over. And just like the evangelists, and just like the deacons and the teachers and those in authority, the bishops that work in and some very much in the apostolic area and realm of ministry. Each one has a different flavor, but they do it. You do it. You continue doing what God has placed in you, because you just don't know what God is going to do for you, the maker of everything. Isn't that a blessing? Isn't that a blessing and a word of encouragement to us today? That irrespective of what's going on in our world today, and things are being broken down, things are falling to bits, and chaos is happening in our world, and it's getting very chaotic in many areas of our world. But in all of what is happening there, God has placed something in you. God has placed something in me. God has placed something in us. We don't know. Hallelujah. Praise God, what God will do, because He is the maker and the supplier of everything. God bless you. Have a wondrous and a blessed, blessful day.